Chapter 113. They're not on the same level at all. Lu Ming's strength is probably enough to enter the top 30. Yeah, I really didn't expect him to improve so quickly. Discussions could be heard from all around. Ha ha ha, senior brother Lu Ming, you're the best. Peng Shi shouted. Lu Ming, go for it. Lu Ming, you're the best. The other disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard couldn't help but shout excitedly. With Lu Ming's current strength, they could finally cheer for Lu Ming without any worries. This kid is really good. Lana, you have good taste. The Vermilion Bird Courtyard's principal stroked his beard with a satisfied expression. Lu Ming, maybe he'll be able to enter that place in the future? Mulan sighed. The Vermilion Bird Courtyard's principal's expression changed slightly. Lana, do you really want Lu Ming to go there? Right now, Lu Ming is still far from it. I know Lu Ming is still too far away, but I believe that he'll be able to do it in the near future. He's given me too many surprises. Mulan's limpid eyes looked at the slender figure standing on the stage with a spear, her eyes shining with hope. Sigh. The Vermilion Bird Courtyard's principal sighed, but didn't say anything. White Tiger Courtyard. Damn it, how can this little bastard be so strong? Lu Yunxiong was furious. Lu Yao's expression was extremely cold, and her eyes were filled with madness. She stared at Lu Ming on the stage and roared in her heart, Lu Ming, damn you Lu Ming, you're just a bastard I abandoned, a piece of trash, how can you be so strong? I won't allow it, a piece of trash that I abandoned should be a piece of trash for the rest of his life. I won't allow a piece of trash to become stronger than me, never. At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with different kinds of light, as they looked at the figure on the stage. Except for the Mystic Essence Sword sect leader. His eyes were calm and detached, as if he was unmoved by anything. But in the next moment, the Mystic Essence Sword sect master's indifferent and aloof expression disappeared, replaced by a look of astonishment. Because a voice came from the fighting ring. I admit defeat. Silence. The entire place quieted down in an instant, so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. No matter what kind of expression they had before, it all changed into one kind of expression, which was a look of confusion. Because the one who said I admit defeat was Lu Ming. It was not Yunfeng but Lu Ming. Lu Ming admitted defeat? What happened? How could this be? Lu Yao and Lu Yunxiong were dumbfounded, and so were Peng Shi, Feng Wu, Huaqi, and Mulan's. The other silver-robed and golden-robed elders were also dumbfounded. What is Lu Ming trying to do? Peng Shi was tongue-tied. Lu Ming clearly showed his strength and could enter the top 30. Why did he suddenly admit defeat? What the hell is he trying to do? Feng Wu frowned. Yeah, his strength is enough to enter the top 30. Huaqi also frowned and murmured. Suddenly, he paused and his eyes lit up. He smiled and said, I know what Lu Ming is trying to do. Haha, I like it. You know? Why? Peng Shi asked in surprise. I can't tell you now. Just wait and see. Huaqi smiled mysteriously. Peng Shi, Feng Wu, and the others all despised him. In the fighting ring, the silver-robed elder was stunned and asked after a while, Lu Ming, what did you say? You admit defeat? Yes, I admit defeat. Lu Ming nodded and said, Lu Ming, what do you mean? Are you looking down on me? In front of him, Yunfeng stood up and glared at Lu Ming. I'm not looking down on you. Don't misunderstand, I'm just admitting defeat. Lu Ming said indifferently. Yunfeng was speechless. The silver-robed elder confirmed it again, and then helplessly announced that Yunfeng had won this match. Lu Ming smiled and walked back to the area of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. Damn Lu Ming, what are you playing at? Hurry up and say it or I won't let you off. Feng Wu gritted his teeth as he stared at Lu Ming. You'll know in a while. Lu Ming laughed. Senior brother Lu Ming, why do you sound like a love-struck fool? I really don't understand you guys. Peng Shi scratched his head. Lu Ming and Huaqi looked at each other and smiled. Then the competition continued. In less than an hour, the 30 matches had all ended. Among them, the 4 newcomer kings received the most attention. One of them, Feng Xinglia, had only cultivated for a short period of time. He met an expert ranked 21st and ended in failure. As for Lu Ming, he admitted defeat himself. The other 2 were extremely powerful, so they naturally advanced with ease. The top 30 had been decided, but it was not over yet. there were still challenges. The silver-robed elders of the 4 courtyards, the silver-robed elder of the sect leader's side, and the 2 golden-robed elders discussed together to choose 10 strong challengers. This was because there were indeed some powerful geniuses who were unlucky enough to meet those ranked in the top 10 or in the top 10. Naturally, they were no match for them. Now they had to give them a chance. Not long after, the names of the 10 challengers came out. Now I announce that there are 3 challengers. Wu Jin, Huang Fei, Lu Ming, the silver-robed elder in charge announced. Lu Ming's name was on the list. Haha, I knew it. Senior brother Lu Ming would definitely have the chance to challenge again. The strength he displayed just now was extremely strong. Peng Sure laughed. At this moment the names were announced. The silver-robed elder said, "All right, now you can choose your challengers." As soon as the silver-robed elder finished speaking, a figure quickly jumped onto the fighting ring. That figure was Lu Ming. The crowd was stunned again. Lu Ming had just admitted defeat, but now he was the first one to step onto the fighting ring and issue a challenge. What was he trying to do? Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning. He turned around and looked at the White Tiger courtyard area. He pointed his spear and said coldly, "Duanmu Yunchong, get up here." His cold voice spread throughout the area, causing many people to be shocked. Then some of them were enlightened. I know why Lu Ming admitted defeat. His goal is to obtain the right to challenge Duanmu Yunchong. Someone shouted. That's right. Before Lu Ming admitted defeat, he purposely displayed his powerful strength and defeated Yunfeng in one move. He knew that even if he admitted defeat, he would obtain the right to challenge Duanmu Yunfeng. He wanted to avenge Lu Hui from the Vermilion Bird courtyard. I see. At this moment everyone present understood. On the highest platform, the Mystic Essence Sword sect leader was curious. He looked at Lu Ming and whispered, "This Lu Ming is really good." It's not easy to attract the attention of the sect leader. A golden-robed elder on the side smiled. Chapter 114. Haha, so that's what senior brother Lu Ming was thinking. It's so complicated, no wonder I didn't think of it. You must have thought of it before, right? Peng Sure laughed and asked. Hua Qi smiled and nodded. When Lu Ming went up, there were only 6 or 7 matches left, and Lu Ming displayed his strength before admitting defeat. Isn't that strange? I also speculated from this point that he had full confidence that he would be selected for the challenge, so he did that. This guy is really strange and unexpected. Feng Wu curled his lips. Not far away, Lu Hui's injuries had already stabilized, and he muttered, "Lu Ming." His eyes were filled with gratitude. The eyes of the other disciples of the Vermilion Bird courtyard also changed, looking at Lu Ming with admiration. But the disciples of the White Tiger courtyard were different, especially the disciples of the Duanmu family, who were all furious. This Lu Ming, damn it, he's deliberately going against our Duanmu family. That's right, we haven't settled the previous debt, and he dares to provoke us again. Duanmu Yunchong, go, let him know that challenging you is a mistake. Some of the youths of the Duanmu family roared. Don't worry, he purposely admitted defeat, and then challenged me to stand up for Lu Hui. I will let him know how stupid his actions are. Duanmu Yunchong's face revealed a sinister smile, then stepped out and appeared on the stage like a ghost. Lu Ming, you want to stand up for Lu Hui? Wait a moment, I will make you 10 times more miserable than Lu Hui. Duanmu Yunchong said sinisterly. Lu Ming smiled indifferently and said, I've seen a lot of trash like you. All of them were very arrogant in the beginning, just like Yao Qianyu's group, but in the end they all became dead dogs. Yes, senior brother Lu Ming, do your best. Beat him into a dead dog. Beat him up. Take revenge for senior brother Lu Hui. Senior brother Lu Ming is mighty. Senior brother Lu Ming, do your best. The disciples of the Vermilion Bird courtyard shouted one after another. Previously, Duanmu Yunchong had been too despicable. He had humiliated Lu Hui so much. The Vermilion Bird courtyard's disciples had a common enemy and naturally stood on Lu Ming's side. Humph. A bunch of trash who only know how to shout. Duanmu Yunchong coldly snorted. His complexion was incomparably gloomy. When he looked at Lu Ming, his eyes flickered with intense killing intent. Whoosh! Suddenly, Duanmu Yun became impulsive and rushed toward Lu Ming. It was a low-grade profound level movement technique and it was as fast as lightning. But Lu Ming stood there motionless, without the slightest intention of dodging. Just as Duanmu was about to reach Lu Ming's spear swept out. A half-moon appeared and swept across the area 3 meters in front of him. Duanmu Yuncheng was greatly alarmed. He rapidly retreated and narrowly avoided this attack. Lu Ming, do you think you can rely on your weapon length? Dream on! Duanmu Yuncheng roared. His figure flickered rapidly. In an instant, there seemed to be 3 figures of Duanmu Yuncheng on the field, rushing toward Lu Ming. This is the illusory body technique. Duanmu Yuncheng has cultivated it to the 2nd level. It is said that if he cultivates it to the 6th level, there will be 7 figures. The illusory body technique is both real and fake. Let's see how Lu Ming will break it. Some of the older disciples discussed. Insignificant skill. Lu Ming's indifferent voice resounded. His spear swept out, sweeping toward the 2 figures in front of him. At the same time, his other hand blasted toward the figure behind him. In the next moment, the 2 figures in front dissipated. Behind him, Duanmu Yuncheng's palm collided with Lu Ming's fist. Boom! With a loud boom, Duanmu Yuncheng's expression changed drastically. His figure rapidly retreated. How could this be? Duanmu Yuncheng roared. He couldn't accept this. He had already approached Lu Ming, but he was still pushed back by Lu Ming's fist. How could he fight? He cultivated movement and palm techniques. He was definitely not a match for Lu Ming from a distance. However, he was still not a match for Lu Ming in close range. He was a little confused. Duanmu Yuncheng, do you think you can be a match for me in close range? You are too naive. Lu Ming sneered. His physical body was at the 2nd grade lower realm. His cultivation had reached the peak of the 8th grade martial master realm. He was much stronger than when he fought with Yao Tianyu 2 months ago. Duanmu Yuncheng did not cultivate his body. He only relied on his profound grade palm technique. How could he be a match for Lu Ming? Buzz! The spear in Lu Ming's hand shook. The spear vibrated violently. The spear shaft vibrated the air, erupting with powerful air waves that rushed toward Duanmu Yuncheng. Bang! Bang! Duanmu Yuncheng sent out powerful palm attacks, shattering the airwaves created by the spear. However, Lu Ming had already arrived. Buzz! The spear fiercely whipped toward Duanmu Yuncheng. Duanmu Yuncheng wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Block it for me! Duanmu Yuncheng roared. His bloodline erupted. His palms turned red and the sound of tigers and leopards could be faintly heard. Then he pushed out his palms with overwhelming force toward Lu Ming's spear. Bang! A dull sound rang out. Then, the sound of bones breaking and Duanmu Yuncheng's miserable shriek rang out. Duanmu Yuncheng's figure was like a kite with a broken string, flying far away. However, Lu Ming did not stop there. His figure moved and he took several steps. As if he was riding the clouds, he quickly rushed toward Duanmu Yuncheng. Superior grade yellow grade martial skill, cloud soaring steps. Although it could not be compared to a profound grade martial skill, it was still much more powerful than the dragon snake steps. In an instant, Lu Ming caught up with Duanmu Yuncheng, who was still flying in the air. At this moment, Duanmu Yuncheng's facial features were squeezed together because of the pain. When he saw Lu Ming chasing after him, his eyes were filled with horror. He screamed, "No, He was just about to say, "I admit defeat," but before he could do so, Lu Ming's spear was whipped out from below. Bang! Duanmu Yuncheng forcibly swallowed back the words, "I admit defeat," which turned into a miserable shriek. His body was like a broken sack as he flew into the air. After flying for more than 10 meters, he landed heavily. Lu Ming whipped out his spear again and sent him flying again. At this moment, Duanmu Yuncheng was completely stupefied. He was muddle-headed and had completely forgotten about admitting defeat. Everyone present was also stunned. This was Lu Ming's battle prowess. It was too strong. Duanmu Yuncheng was completely beaten up. Lu Ming's profound grade spear art has already reached the peak of the 3rd level. He is about to break through to the 4th level. In addition, he has a strong body that is suspected to be a 2nd grade martial skill. His battle prowess is extremely terrifying. Can't you see? His martial skill is superior grade yellow grade, but he has already cultivated it to the 6th level. That's right. It's really terrifying. How long has it been since he entered the sect? How did he cultivate in such a short time? Could it be that he is an exceptional genius? With his battle prowess, could it be that he has already entered the top 15? It's hard to say. Around them, some silver grade disciples were looking at Lu Ming in shock as they discussed. Chapter 115. At the same time, the Duanmu family members in the White Tiger Institute were dumbfounded. After a long while, someone shouted, "Stop! Lu Ming, you bastard, stop! Duanmu Yunchong has already lost, why aren't you stopping?" "That's right, if you don't stop now, you're breaking the rules." Breaking the rules? Lu Ming sneered. Duanmu Yunchong didn't die, and he didn't admit defeat. How am I breaking the rules? The Duanmu family members were furious, but there was nothing they could do. Bang! Then, another spear strike sent Duanmu Yunchong flying. At the same time, the 4 institute deans had different expressions. The Black Tortoise and Azure Dragon Institute deans looked like they were watching a good show. On the other hand, the White Tiger Institute dean's face was gloomy, and a terrifying aura was exuding from his body. The happiest one was of course the Vermilion Bird Institute dean. He scratched his beard with all his might, grinning from ear to ear. Carefree, this was too carefree. Admit defeat. Duanmu Yunchong, admit defeat. Admit defeat. The White Tiger Institute disciples shouted. But Duanmu Yunchong was already in a daze. How could he shout? Lu Ming struck a few more times, and Duanmu Yunchong fell heavily to the ground. His body twitched and white foam mixed with blood came out of his mouth. His skin was lacerated, and more than a dozen bones were broken. Of course, this was the result of Lu Ming deliberately controlling his strength. Otherwise, he could have killed him with a single strike. Lu Ming stepped on Duanmu Yunchong's body and looked down at him. Duanmu Yunchong regained his senses after a while. When he saw Lu Ming in front of him, he was scared out of his wits. Like a defiled girl, he shrank back and screamed, "No, no, don't hit me." As he screamed, snot and tears flowed down his face. He was terrified of being hit. The pain of the spear on his body penetrated his soul. "Didn't you say you would make me 10 times worse than Lu Hui? Why, where did your arrogance go?" Lu Ming looked down at Duanmu Yunchong and said coldly, "No, no, I won't do it again. Just take it that I'm farting." Duanmu Yunchong shouted. Haha. Duanmu Yunchong's appearance caused the entire crowd to burst into laughter. The faces of the Duanmu clan's disciples were incomparably gloomy. This was truly too embarrassing. "Duanmu Yunchong, hurry up and admit defeat." Someone from the Duanmu family roared. "Admit defeat, yes, I admit defeat, I admit defeat." Duanmu Yunchong shouted loudly. Inevitably, it caused another round of laughter. "Lu Ming, Duanmu Yunchong has already admitted defeat. Why haven't you removed your foot yet?" Someone from the Duanmu family shouted. "Oh, sure." Lu Ming smiled, then moved his leg and suddenly kicked out. Duanmu Yunchong let out a blood-curdling scream as his body was sent flying dozens of meters away. He rolled dozens of times on the stage before coming to a stop. "Lu Ming, what are you doing? Duanmu Yunchong has already admitted defeat, yet you still attacked. You've already broken the rules. You must be arrested and punished according to the sect rules." A silver-ranked disciple of the Duanmu family roared. "Foul? You must have misunderstood. Just now, Duanmu Yunchong was blocking my foot. When I lifted my foot, he was sent flying. This is all his fault. Why did he lie beside my foot for no reason?" Lu Ming said indifferently. Lu Ming, you." The disciples of the Duanmu family trembled with anger. They felt as if there was a lump in their chest, and they almost vomited blood. Previously, Duanmu Yunchong had treated Lu Hui the same way. Now Lu Ming had copied it and used it all on Duanmu Yunchong. It was really hard for them to refute. "Haha, Lu Ming, you little brat. You're not even careful when you walk. You must be more careful next time." Ahaha. The dean of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard stroked his beard and laughed heartily. The disciples of the other courtyards were speechless when they saw the dean of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard laughing heartily. "Isn't your performance too obvious? This battle is won by Lu Ming." The silver-robed elder announced on the stage. "Senior brother Lu is mighty. Junior brother Lu is invincible." At this moment, The disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard were trembling with excitement. They couldn't hold it in any longer and shouted crazily, "Awesome, too awesome!" It was as if they suddenly drank a cup of cold beer during the dog days of summer. It was so cool that it reached their bones. Previously, Duanmu Yunchong was so arrogant, but now he was like a dead dog. It was too awesome. Especially Pang Shi, Hua Qi, and Feng Wu. Their faces were flushed with excitement. At this moment, the people of the White Tiger Courtyard had already carried Duanmu Yunchong down. Lu Ming. Just as Lu Ming was about to turn and leave, an earth-shattering roar came from the White Tiger Courtyard area. Lu Ming turned around and saw a young man in a fiery red robe looking at him coldly. Duanmu Yunyang, that's Duanmu Yunyang, the newcomer king 3 years ago. What is he doing? Someone exclaimed. Duanmu Yunyang? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and information about Duanmu Yunyang appeared in his mind. Duanmu Yunyang, the newcomer king 3 years ago, currently ranked second on the bronze list. Unfortunately, he was firmly suppressed by Zhang Muyun, who was in the same batch as him. It was difficult for him to rush to first place. Some people said that Zhang Muyun was the true newcomer king in that batch, and Duanmu Yunyang only relied on the Duanmu family to obtain the newcomer king title. What? Do you need something from me? Lu Ming replied indifferently. Lu Ming, you've got guts. Maybe you don't know how big of a mistake you've made. Lu Ming, you better pray that you don't meet me in the future. Otherwise, I'll make you lose miserably. Very miserably. Duanmu Yunyang said coldly, especially the word very miserably. He especially emphasized it. The disciples of the Black Tortoise, Azure Dragon, and Vermilion Bird Courtyards all had a change in expression. Especially the disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. Their expressions were even uglier. Lu Ming was targeted by Duanmu Yunyang. Although Duanmu Yunyang was suppressed by Zhang Muyun, it was undeniable that his battle strength was incomparably powerful. He was almost invincible among those of the same level. There were even rumors that Duanmu Yunyang had once defeated a first-layer martial grandmaster expert. This was crossing a large realm, not a small realm. His battle strength could be said to be terrifying. No one would think that Lu Ming was Duanmu Yunyang's opponent. Maybe after a year or two it would be possible. But now it was impossible. Mulin's Feng Wu, Hua Qi, and the others all revealed worried expressions. Only Pang Shi waved his arms and shouted to believe in Lu Ming. Is that so? I actually hope to meet you. I'd like to see how you're going to make me lose miserably. Don't be like Duanmu Yunchong, who only knows how to clamor. Lu Ming's indifferent reply was incomparably powerful. Everyone was shocked. Lu Ming wanted to challenge Duanmu Yunyang. Where did he get the guts? In the Azure Dragon Courtyard area, a man and a woman stood side by side. Among them, the man was dressed in a blue robe. He had a slender figure, black hair, sword-like eyebrows, and starry eyes. Just by casually standing there, he had an extraordinary aura, as if a king was patrolling. He was the first on the bronze list, Zhang Muyun. Beside him was an extremely beautiful woman, Zhua Yirong, who was ranked 7th on the bronze list. Brother Muyun, what do you think of this Lu Ming? Zhua Yirong asked. Extremely talented, a dragon among men. But after all, he's still young and full of youthful vigor. In 2 years he'll be a big opponent of mine. Zhang Muyun smiled. Zhua Yirong said with some surprise, there aren't many people who can be valued by Brother Muyun. But isn't it a good thing to have an opponent in life? Yirong, you know me best. Chapter 116. Lu Ming did not say much to Duanmu Yunyang as he turned and walked down the stage. Lu Ming, thank you. When Lu Ming returned to the Vermilion Bird Courtyard area, Lu Hui cupped his fists and thanked Lu Ming. You don't have to thank me. I'm not just standing up for you. I just don't like the Duanmu clan. Moreover, I already have a grudge with the Duanmu clan. Lu Ming smiled. Don't like it? Lu Hui and the other Vermilion Bird Courtyard disciples were stunned. Just because of this, he went up and ruthlessly beat up Duanmu Yunchong? They felt that they could not understand Lu Ming's thoughts. Next, the challenges continued. The competition was very intense. Everyone fought with all their strength. When the challenges were all over, it was already night time. Out of the 10 challengers, including Lu Ming, a total of 5 people succeeded, replacing 5 of the previous 30 challengers. At this time, the top 30 of each courtyard had been determined. Only 5 people from the Vermilion Bird Courtyard entered the top 30. Just like the Vermilion Bird Courtyard, the Black Tortoise Courtyard only had 5 people. The Azure Dragon Courtyard had 8 people. The White Tiger Courtyard was the strongest with 12 people. It was worth mentioning that Feng Xinglia had already been eliminated from the top 4 newcomers, while Lu Ming was a dark horse and had made it into the top 30. As for the other 2, the newcomer Ling Kong from 2 years ago and the newcomer Duanmu Yunyang from 3 years ago, they easily entered the top 30. Feng Xinglia is still too young. He hasn't even been in the sect for 2 years. It's normal for him to be eliminated. That's right. However, if Feng Xinglia does not break through to the Martial Grandmaster realm in 1 or 2 years, then the bronze list battle will be his. This is the normal speed. But what about Lu Ming? Everyone was chatting, but they all thought of the same name at the same time. Lu Ming. Lu Ming had just entered the sect this year, but he had already entered the top 30. Lu Ming? He's abnormal. We can't calculate him according to common sense. Everyone could only use this reason to comfort themselves. That was the end of today's competition. They would continue the next day. Lu Ming, Pang Shi, and the others returned to the dormitory. The night passed uneventfully. The next morning, they returned to the location of the competition. Now the top 30 come up and draw lots. The silver-robed elder from yesterday was still in charge. The rules were the same as yesterday. The silver-robed elder would randomly pick 15 people, and then these 15 people would pick the names of the other 15 people. This time, the number that Lu Ming drew was number 12. Number 12? Looks like I've finally met a strong opponent. Lu Ming's lips curled up in anticipation. To be honest, he had not displayed his full strength in the previous battles. After registering, Lu Ming walked to his seat. Lu Ming, what number did you draw? As soon as she came back, Mulins couldn't wait to ask. Today, Mulins did not sit with her grandfather. Instead, she sat with Feng Wu, Pang Shi and the others. Naturally, their area was filled with the male disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. Number 12. Lu Ming said with a smile. Number 12? Azure Dragon Courtyard's Gu Qing. Hearing this name, the faces of Feng Wu, Hua Qi and the others changed. Lu Ming, remember, you just have to do your best. Even if you lose, it's worth it to be able to gain something. Mulins sighed. Senior Sister Mulins, from your tone, it seems like I'm going to lose for sure? Lu Ming was speechless. What is it? Do you think you can win against Gu Qing? Mulins's beautiful eyes flashed as she stared at Lu Ming and said, even if I can't win, can't you cheer me on? Lu Ming did not answer directly, but instead asked a question. Then he sat down, but the corner of his mouth carried a trace of an inexplicable smile. This guy, what trump card did he leave behind? Mulin stared fiercely at Lu Ming for a while, as if she wanted to see through his secrets. The first match has officially begun. Number 19, Pu Sicong against number 15, Ling Kong. The silver-robed elder announced. Following the silver-robed elder's announcement, the entire audience immediately went into an uproar. Ling Kong has appeared, and he's actually going against Pu Sicong. This match is going to be interesting. I don't think so. Ling Kong hasn't fought for half a year. No one knows how strong he is now, but there's no doubt that Ling Kong has the chance to enter the top 10 this time. It's even possible for him to enter the top 6. That's right, the rookie king from 2 years ago is about to enter his era. 2 young figures stepped onto the stage under the gaze of the entire audience. Ling Kong was a bald youth 17 or 18 years old. His muscles were bulging, and he was filled with explosive power. He carried an iron rod on his back, and his eyes revealed a beast-like light. This was Ling Kong, the rookie king from 2 years ago, a peerless genius of the White Tiger Institute. However, he wasn't from the Duanmu family. Opposite Ling Kong was a handsome youth named Pu Sicong. He was ranked 19 on the bronze list previously, and he was definitely an expert. But at this moment, Pu Sicong's face was extremely solemn. Pu Sicong, I advise you to admit defeat. You're not my opponent, Ling Kong said with a grin. His words were arrogant, but in reality no one felt that he was arrogant. They only felt that Ling Kong's words were reasonable because he had the strength to back it up. Pu Sichong's eyes flashed. And he said with determination, Ling Kong, if you want me to admit defeat, we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. Oh, since you insist on fighting, then you should be prepared to get injured. Sometimes even I can't control myself. Ling Kong grinned, revealing a sinister smile. Then take this. Bang! As soon as Ling Kong finished his words, his eyes flashed with a ferocious light. Like a demonic beast, he pounced towards Pu Sikhong. Chi's sharp claws covered Pu Sichong's entire body. Pu Sikhong unsheathed his long sword, and his sword Chi soared to the sky, slashing towards Ling Kong. Boom! Boom! Ling Kong's claws collided with Pu Sichong's sword Chi, and both dissipated. You have some ability, but that's it. Let's end this. Ling Kong's cold voice came out, and his body was filled with a murderous aura. Like a demonic beast in human form, he pulled out the iron rod from his back and smashed it towards Pu Sikhong. This rod was earth-shattering, and its aura soared to the sky. Pu Sikhong exploded with all his strength, but it was difficult for him to block it. He was sent flying dozens of meters away, his body trembling, and he spat out blood. Defeated, he was defeated in 2 moves. In reality, he was defeated in 1 move. The difference in strength between Pu Sikhong and Ling Kong was too great. Ling Kong's strength is too strong. He definitely has no problem getting into the top 10. This time there will definitely be a change in the top 10. Ugh. In the stands, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This Ling Kong was indeed strong, and he couldn't see through him. This is interesting. Subsequently, Lu Ming's eyes revealed a trace of battle intent. Ling Kong wins. Next round, number 17 against number 2. Chapter 117. Wasn't number 2 Duanmu Yunyang? Duanmu Yunyang's opponent was number 17 Du He, who was even stronger than Pu Sikhong. However, the gap between him and Duanmu Yunyang was too big. Just one slash and Du He was defeated. He was completely defeated without any chance to fight back. Duanmu Yunyang's slash was extremely terrifying, as if it could split heaven and earth. No one knew how much strength Duanmu Yunyang had used in that slash, but there was no doubt that it was extremely terrifying. Then the competition continued. It was more intense than before. Those who could enter the top 30 were all very strong. When 2 people with similar strength met each other, the battle was extremely fierce. There was even a battle that lasted nearly 1,000 moves before the winner was decided. However, there were also some battles that were completely one-sided. For example, Zhang Muyun defeated his opponent with a casual slap. Bu Xingkai, who was number 3 on the bronze list, and Duan Gang, who was number 4, defeated their opponents with a single move. Lu Ming paid more attention to Bu Xingkai because he was also a spear user, and was a genius of the White Tiger Hall. Although the Mystic Essence Sword Sect was known as a sword sect, and most of its disciples used swords, there were also many disciples who used other weapons in the sect. Therefore, there were all kinds of number 1 disciples. For example, Zhang Muyun was known as the number 1 sword user among the bronze disciples. Duanmu Yunyang was known as the number 1 sword user. Bu Xingkai was known as the number 1 spear user. Number 51 Lu Ming versus number 12 Gu Qing. At this moment, the silver-robed elder announced, Gu Qing? Lu Ming's opponent is Gu Qing? It seems that Lu Ming will stop here. However, as a new disciple, it's already amazing that he could come this far. Lu Ming will definitely lose, but how many moves can Lu Ming take from Gu Qing? How many moves? In my opinion, 10 moves shouldn't be a problem. It's hard to say. I guess it should be within 10 moves. Lu Ming ignored the discussions around him and walked towards the fighting ring. Senior brother Lu Ming, I believe in you. You will definitely win. Pang Shi shouted. He had a kind of blind trust in Lu Ming. Lu Ming turned around and smiled at Pang Shi, saying, Big Stone, with your words I will definitely win. After saying that, he laughed and walked forward. Where does this guy get his confidence from? Mulins curled her lips. This guy has always been overconfident. Fengwu said. Although they said so, there was still a flash of anticipation in the depths of their eyes. They were also looking forward to Lu Ming breaking their understanding once again. When Lu Ming stepped onto the Colosseum, Gu Qing also stepped onto the Colosseum. The two stood facing each other. Lu Ming couldn't help but size up Gu Qing. Gu Qing wore a purple robe and carried a long sword on his back. His appearance was ordinary, but there was a scorching aura emitting from his body. Junior brother Lu Ming, although your ranking is low, I will not show mercy to any of my opponents. You must be careful. Gu Qingyi cupped his fists politely. Senior brother Gu, please go all out. If I can't resist and get injured, I can only blame myself for not being skilled enough. Lu Ming said. Well, in that case, take this prairie fire. The long sword on Gu Qing's back was unsheathed. With a flick of his wrist, hundreds of sword auras erupted from the long sword. Each sword aura was fiery red in color and filled with scorching heat. It sealed the space where Lu Ming was. It's here. This is Gu Qing's famous martial skill, Prairie Fire Sword Technique. Low-grade profound rank martial skill, Prairie Fire. Sword Chi is like a prairie fire that covers an extremely large area. It's practically impossible to dodge it with a movement technique. Once you're unable to dodge it, you'll have to face wave after wave of continuous attacks without rest. It's said that Gu Qing specializes in one martial skill, and now he has cultivated it to the 4th level. Lu Ming, how many moves can he take? The spectating disciples stared at the fighting ring without blinking. The 12th rank genius is indeed powerful. His low profound level martial skill has already reached the 4th level. Gu Qing's physical body is definitely not weak. It has at least reached the peak of the 1st rank. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to attack so quickly. Lu Ming's heart moved. His hands did not stop, and his long spear swept out. Moon seizing. The crescent-shaped spear light flashed, producing a powerful force, and smashing the surrounding sword chi. But a single spark could start a prairie fire. Once the sword chi was extinguished, more sword chi was born, and shrouded Lu Ming. Since I can't destroy it, I'll use a powerful force to break this sword technique. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He jumped up and pulled out his long spear. Wherever the long spear passed, the sword chi was destroyed, leaving a blank area. Landslide. Then Lu Ming used the move landslide from top to bottom. At the same time, the genuine chi in his body crazily poured into the long spear. The long spear vibrated full of power. Given Lu Ming's current cultivation level of peak 8th level martial master, coupled with the fact that his true chi was 3 times richer and more condensed than other true chis, coupled with his 2nd grade small success physical body, although Lu Ming did not unleash his full power, his strength was extremely shocking. With this shot, even if it was a small hill, it would collapse under Lu Ming's attack. Boom! The long spear smashed down, and the sword chi was swept away. The violent force blasted on Gu Qing's sword, causing his body to shake violently, and he retreated more than 10 steps. Hiss! There was a burst of gasps all around. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. Lu Ming actually broke Gu Qing's prairie fire sword technique with a single spear. His method was rude and direct but also the most effective. Lu Ming's strength is too strong. How can he be so strong? Don't tell me Lu Ming can win? This is too incredible, isn't it? The disciples of the 4 great academies could not keep calm. At this moment Gu Qing's face was extremely dignified, and his eyes were filled with amazement. He said, Junior brother Lu Ming, your talent is really beyond my expectations, but it's not that easy to defeat me. I can only use that move. I originally wanted to use it to break into the top 10, but it's not a waste to use it on you. Raging Flame Cage. Gu Qing shouted softly, and his body suddenly soared into the sky. Suddenly layers of red flames appeared on his body, as if his whole body was suddenly burning. Next, these flames engulfed Lu Ming in an overwhelming manner. Lu Ming's body flashed to avoid these flames, but as soon as these flames fell on the ground, they burned fiercely. In an instant, Lu Ming's surroundings turned into a sea of fire. Junior brother Lu Ming, this is my secret skill, Raging Flame Cage. As long as you can break this move, I will admit defeat. Gu Qing's voice came out. Secret skill, what a wonderful secret skill. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Secret skills were completely different from martial skills, and there was no difference in level. However, each secret skill was very wonderful and very difficult to cultivate. It also required some special conditions to cultivate successfully. Once used, it could greatly enhance the strength of the martial artist, but there were always gains and losses. Secret skills also had various restrictions. For example, once some secret skills were used, the martial artist would fall into a weak state and be at the mercy of others. Gu Qing's secret skill was to burn his genuine qi, and with genuine qi as fuel, it burned and turned into a flame cage. Unfortunately, how can flames stop me? Chapter 118. Then Lu Ming's spear danced rapidly. Lu Ming brandished the long spear and a strong wind blew. The fire-patterned spear in Lu Ming's hand seemed to have transformed into a fire dragon. Whoosh! Then a shocking scene appeared. The surrounding flames moved up and down along with Lu Ming's spear. In the end, they were driven by the spear and turned into a giant fire dragon, dancing around Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood in the sea of flames. The fire dragon danced around him like a fire god. Go! Finally, Lu Ming thrust his spear into the sky. A fire dragon soared into the sky and spiraled up into the clouds. After reaching 100 meters in the air, the fire dragon slowly dissipated into energy and returned to heaven and earth. On the fighting ring, there was no longer any flame where Lu Ming stood. The raging flame cage was broken. Gu Qing was stunned. After a while, he came to his senses and said with a wry smile, "Junior brother Lu Ming is a genius. I'm not as good as him. Thank you for showing mercy just now, junior brother Lu Ming. I admit defeat." If Lu Ming had aimed the long spear at him earlier on, he would have been seriously injured, if not dead, given his weakened state after casting the secret skill. "I was lucky," Lu Ming said with a smile. "I hope junior brother Lu Ming can enter the top 10. Gu Qing cupped his fists and left the fighting ring. He won. Lu Ming won again. The disciples of the 4 great academies were speechless. They could only feel their lips trembling. In particular, those who repeatedly thought that Lu Ming was going to stop and was going to be defeated felt their faces burning, as if they had been slapped dozens of times. In the White Tiger Hall area, Lu Yao and Lu Yunxiong's faces were gloomy. There was even fear in their eyes. Lu Ming's talent and speed of improvement had already made them a little fearful. No, compared to Duan Mulin, he is still far from being able to compete with him. Lu Yao clenched her fists and told herself over and over again. It seemed that this was the only way she would feel better. Lu Ming wins. The silver-robed elder announced from the fighting ring. Naturally, the crowd was in an uproar again. Lu Ming smiled and walked down the fighting ring, returning to the seating area. "How is it? Senior Sister Mulins, I told you that you should believe in me. I was recommended by you. If you believe in me, you believe in your own eyes." Back in the seating area, Lu Ming said to Mulins proudly, You brat, it's still too early. Wait until you enter the top 10 before you show off." Looking at Lu Ming's smug expression, Mulins was so angry that her teeth itched. Of course, admiration flashed across the depths of her eyes. "Enter the top 10? What's the reward?" Lu Ming asked. "Reward? What kind of reward do you want?" Mulins smiled charmingly and leaned forward. Her firm and full upper body was almost leaning on Lu Ming's chest. A burst of intoxicating fragrance rushed into Lu Ming's nose. Nearby, Hua Qi, Feng Wu and many other disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard were stunned. Then they revealed incomparably jealous gazes. This time Lu Ming did not dodge. Instead, he took a deep breath and revealed an intoxicated expression. Then he stared at Mulins's chest with all his might and said with a smile that was not a smile, "Senior Sister Mulins, I can ask for any reward. Can you satisfy me?" The meaning behind his words was already very obvious. Mulins did not speak, but the nearby disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard had already exploded. "Nest Lu Ming, what are you trying to do? What do you mean by that lewd look in your eyes? Lu Ming, let me tell you, although your talent is extraordinary, if you want to hit Elder Mulins, I'll fight it out with you. Elder Mulins is my goddess. Hurry up and move your lewd gaze away." Hua Qi shouted, "Lu Ming, you beast, I'm going to fight it out with you." Ugh. The crowd was in high spirits, and Lu Ming could only retreat in defeat. Lu Ming took 2 steps back and rubbed his nose with a wry smile. Mulins's charm was too strong, wasn't it? At the sight of Lu Ming retreating, Mulan puffed out her chest proudly. Instantly her breast surged, attracting the attention of a group of perverts nearby. Their eyes were fixed on her. Mulins was already 21 years old, and was completely different from a teenage girl. She was mature, sexy and charming, and was simply at the level of a calamity. How could these hot-blooded youths in their teens and 20s resist her? Even Lu Ming's heart fiercely jumped a few times. Mulan's sexy red lips slightly pouted. Her eyes turned and said, "Lu Ming, I'll satisfy whatever conditions you want. Sure, unless you can get first place in this competition." "First place? Senior Mulan's, is that what you said?" Lu Ming looked at Mulan's with a smile that was not a smile. Seeing Lu Ming's eyes, Mulan's heart jumped. Could it be that Lu Ming can get first place? Then she shook her head. First place? Impossible. The strength of the top few was terrifying. She was very clear Lu Ming absolutely could not get first place. Thinking of this, she relaxed, smiled charmingly, and said, "Okay, then it's a promise. First place?" The other vermilion bird courtyards nearby did not besiege Lu Ming this time, because their thoughts were similar to Mulan's. With Lu Ming's battle strength, it was already very likely for him to enter the top 10, but it was impossible for him to get first place. The competition continued. Not long after, the remaining competitions were all over. However, the top 15 were not completely decided yet, because there were still challenges. This time, the elders would choose the strongest person they thought to be to fill in the 16th place. Then they would choose 5 people to challenge. The winner would enter the top 16. Not long after, the names were chosen and the challenges began. This time, no one challenged Lu Ming, because the strength that Lu Ming had displayed was too strong. When the challenges were all over, it was already evening. The top 16 had all been announced. The White Tiger Courtyard was still far ahead, occupying 7 spots. The Azure Dragon Courtyard had 4, the Vermilion Bird Courtyard had 3, and the Black Tortoise Courtyard had the worst, with only 2 people entering the top 16. As expected, the Azure Dragon Courtyard's Gu Qing returned to the top 16 through the challenges, proving his strength. The geniuses who were previously ranked in the top 10 all entered the top 16 without exception. Today's competition was over. The next morning, the competition continued. This time it was still decided by drawing lots. After drawing lots this time, the silver-robed elder directly announced the list of duels. Among them, the most eye-catching one was Lu Ming against Ling Kong. Yes, it was a duel between the 2 newcomer kings. Some of the other powerhouses who were ranked at the top did not face each other. Naturally, the duel between Lu Ming and Ling Kong attracted a lot of attention. The whole audience was discussing the duel between Lu Ming and Ling Kong, guessing who would win. Lu Ming's performance was too amazing, and they no longer dared to say that Ling Kong would win. Under everyone's anticipation, the competition began. Duanmu Yunyang was the first to go on stage, and his opponent was actually Gu Qing. It was a one-sided battle. Gu Qing tried his best to cast the Raging Flame Cage, but it was directly split open by Duanmu Yunyang's saber. Duanmu Yunyang almost won with a crushing force. Then Zhang Muyun, Bushinkai, Duangang, and the others went on stage one by one, and they won almost without any suspense. On the other hand, Cheng Failwan defeated his opponent after a tough battle. Chapter 119. The atmosphere in the arena was ignited. White Tiger Hall. Ling Kong, don't hold back when dealing with Lu Ming. It's best if you can cripple him. Duanmu Yunyang said coldly. Duanmu Yunyang, are you ordering me around? Let me tell you, I'm not your Duanmu clan's dog. Don't talk to me like that. Ling Kong grinned, full of arrogance and unruliness. Ling Kong, what do you mean? Lu Ming is our White Tiger Hall's enemy. Another Duanmu clan youth said with an ugly expression. He's your Duanmu clan's enemy, not mine. Ling Kong curled his lips and continued, however, I'll go all out, not because of your Duanmu clan, but because Lu Ming is a good opponent. With that, Ling Kong's figure flashed and he charged toward the fighting ring. This Ling Kong relies on a golden-robed elder for his grandfather. He's simply unruly. He's a disaster. A Duanmu clan youth said. Don't worry, he'll be obedient sooner or later. Duanmu Yunyang sneered. On the fighting ring, Lu Ming and Ling Kong stood opposite each other. Lu Ming, go for it. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're invincible. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples cheered for Lu Ming. Ling Kong, you're invincible. Ling Kong, go for it. Senior brother Ling Kong, beat up Lu Ming. Senior brother Ling Kong will win. The White Tiger Hall disciples didn't want to be outdone and shouted as well. Then the disciples from both sides glared at each other. The battle hadn't started yet, but the disciples from both sides were already at daggers drawn. Lu Ming, I know you're still hiding your strength. You've never used your bloodline. Show me all the strength you have. I won't show you any mercy. Ling Kong looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of wildness. That's exactly what I want. Lu Ming smiled. Good, haha. Ling Kong laughed. The two looked at each other. Boom! Boom! Suddenly the two moved at the same time. The fighting ring let out two roars as the two figures charged toward each other. Wind Demon Staff Art Mountain Splitter. Astral Fire Spear Art. Landslide. The iron staff in the air and Lu Ming's long spear heavily collided. Clang! It was as if two ancient demons had collided with each other. An earth-shattering boom rang out. At the place where the long spear and the iron staff collided, a red and a yellow light erupted violently, forming a huge storm that swept out in all directions. Even though the spectator stands were a few hundred meters away, they could still feel a strong gust of wind, and they were nearly blown away. Isn't this too strong? What kind of power was this? Is this still the power of a martial master? Some of the disciples were horrified. It was only a single move, but its power was truly terrifying. In the fighting ring, the two of them exchanged a blow and both of them took 7 or 8 steps back. What a strong power! Ling Kong's physical body is even stronger than mine. He has already reached rank 2 upper realm. Moreover, his Xian-level martial skill has also reached the peak of the 4th level. He is not any weaker than me. It seems that I can't win against him with only 60% of my strength. Lu Ming's mind raced. The strength of Lu Ming's genuine qi far exceeded that of an ordinary martial master at the peak of LV9 martial master. In the previous confrontation, he had only used 60% of his strength at most. Good again. Ling Kong roared and his muscles wriggled like pieces of iron. He quickly rushed toward Lu Ming. Then 70%. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He stepped on the tip of his foot and his body rushed out like a gust of wind. Clang! Another violent boom rang out. This time, he retreated in the air while Lu Ming merely swayed a little. Lu Ming has the upper hand. Is Lu Ming going to win? It's not that easy. Just watch. Boom! After retreating in the air, he charged toward Lu Ming like a wild beast that had gone mad. Clang! Clang! The two of them continuously bombarded each other. Every time Ling Kong was repulsed, but the next moment, he would rush up again. In an instant, the two of them had exchanged more than 10 moves. Everyone in the audience held their breaths and watched without blinking. Some of the younger ones were even more excited. It was too exciting, too violent. The two of them directly met force with force. It was simple and crude, but it was the most shocking. In the area of the 4 great academies, some people's faces were extremely solemn. For example, Su Song, who was ranked 8th, Dong Su and Lei Dong, who was ranked 10th. Because the strength that the two of them had revealed was already close to them. Clang! Another move. Ling Kong retreated 7 or 8 steps in the air. This time he did not continue to attack. Haha, good, too good. Lu Ming, you're not like those sissies, holding an embroidered sword and learning some slippery movement skills. You don't look like a man at all. After this competition, I must treat you to a drink. Ling Kong laughed heartily. Okay, I'll wait for your wine. Lu Ming smiled. His eyes were bright and his fighting spirit was burning. Such a direct collision also made Lu Ming's blood boil. But Lu Ming, if this is all you've got, I'll win this round. Ling Kong licked his lips and said, boom. Then a bloody light flashed on Ling Kong's body and his bloodline erupted. His bloodline was at the 6th grade. In the Mystic Essence Sword sect, most of the top geniuses had level 5 bloodlines. Only an extremely small number of people had level 6 bloodlines. Like the wind, like Ling Kong. In this year's batch of newcomers, there was not a single one with level 6 bloodline. Before Lu Ming's rise, many people said that this year's batch was the weakest in recent years. Of course, all of them had shut up now. Crackle! When Ling Kong's bloodline erupted, his body actually made a sound like frying beans. Then Ling Kong's muscles wriggled, his bones shifted, and he started to swell. In just a few breaths' time, Ling Kong's body had grown several times larger. He looked like a huge ape, and a violent and fiendish aura spread out from him. Berserk Beast Formula, Berserk Beast Formula. Ling Kong actually mastered the Berserk Beast Formula. With Ling Kong's strength and the Berserk Beast Formula, how terrifying is he? This is the strength of the top 5. There was a burst of exclamations from the stands. It's actually the Berserk Beast Formula. Lu Ming's eyes moved. This was not in the information collected by Hua Qi. The Berserk Beast Formula could increase the strength of the Berserk Beast Formula by a large margin. But the disadvantage was that it could not be maintained for long, and it put a huge burden on the body. After using it, the body would be weak for a period of time. Take this. Ling Kong roared and rushed towards Lu Ming like a giant ape. His speed was much faster than before. Bloodline Eruption and Berserk Beast Formula had more than doubled Ling Kong's combat strength. Boom! The thick iron rod smashed towards Lu Ming. The iron rod smashed through the air, making a rumbling sound. It was extremely terrifying. Since that's the case, let's use 100% of my cultivation. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and the true energy in his body suddenly erupted. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura erupted from Lu Ming's body. Extremely powerful true energy wrapped around Lu Ming's body. Whoosh! 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 Chapter 120. Zhang Muyun, Duan Muyunyang, Bu Xingkai, and Duan Gang stood up at the same time, especially the three at the back. Boom! Lu Ming swept out his spear and clashed with Ling Kong's iron rod once again. The energy overflowed in all directions, stirring up gusts of wind. Some of the disciples at the front of the stands with weaker cultivation were directly swept up by the gusts of wind. If it weren't for the help of disciples with higher cultivation, they would have been blown away. It was too terrifying. This attack had surpassed the level of a martial master and reached the level of a martial grandmaster. After the loud noise, the two figures separated at the same time and slid back a dozen meters. This strength is really strong. Let's continue. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he continued to rush forward. Again. Ling Kong roared and pounced on Lu Ming again. Clang! The two collided again. The two separated immediately after the first strike and then clashed again. Clang! Clang! In the fighting ring it was as if two ancient gods were attacking each other. The terrifying sound of the collision was deafening. Some of the weaker disciples had to circulate their qi to resist. It's too terrifying. Is this the strength of two newcomers? Only the top 5 on the bronze list have this kind of combat power. That's right. No one below the top 5 is this strong. The most terrifying one is Lu Ming. He just joined this year. It's amazing. I wonder if Lu Ming can break senior brother Feng Wuji's record. Senior brother Feng Wuji rushed to the top 5 in his first year as a newcomer. Let's see. Lu Ming's combat power shocked the disciples of the 4 courtyards. Clang! Clang! Rumbling sounds rang out continuously. After exchanging over 100 moves, their figures separated. The two of them pulled apart the distance between them and stood facing each other. Lu Ming, I've lost. Ling Kong sighed. Suddenly, his body trembled and he sat on the ground, gasping for breath. Whether it was the berserk chant or the bloodline eruption, they could not be maintained for too long. The time was up. Following Ling Kong's admission of defeat, the entire audience went into an uproar, especially the disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. They were loudly calling out Lu Ming's name. Lu Ming's victory basically meant that he had stepped into the top 10. This time the Vermilion Bird Courtyard might have 2 people enter the top 10. This was already very good. They definitely wouldn't be at the bottom. One had to know that for the past 7 or 8 years, the Vermilion Bird Courtyard had always been at the bottom. Lu Ming, let's fight again in the future. Ling Kong said. Alright. Lu Ming nodded. Haha. Ling Kong laughed heartily as he walked down the stage. He wanted to recover because he might still have to fight in the next round. Lu Ming stepped down from the battle platform. After that, another battle continued. It didn't take long for the competition to end. After the competition ended, it was the various elders' turn to have a headache. This time the elders were going to choose 2 of the strongest to make up for the top 10. Then from the remaining 6 people, 3 of them would be chosen as challengers to challenge the top 10 experts. If they won, they would replace them. After an intense discussion, the candidates were finally chosen. There was no doubt that Ling Kong's combat strength was obvious to all. He was one of the first two to make up for the top 10. Then the other three began to challenge him. Similarly, no one challenged Lu Ming. When the challenges ended, the top 10 of the year was finally decided. This year's top 10 was not too different from the previous bronze list. The previous top 10 of the bronze list were: first place, Zhang Muyun, Azure Dragon Courtyard. Second place, Duanmu Yunyang White Tiger Courtyard. Third place, Buxingkai White Tiger Courtyard. Fourth place, Duangang, Black Tortoise Courtyard. Fifth place, Duanmu Chan White Tiger Courtyard. Sixth place, Chung Failwan Vermilion Bird Courtyard. Seventh place, Zhua Yirong, Azure Dragon Courtyard. Eighth place, Susong Black Tortoise Courtyard. Ninth place, Dong Su, Azure Dragon Courtyard. 10th place, Lei Dong White Tiger Courtyard. Among the 4 people from White Tiger Courtyard, 3 of them were in the top 5. They were extremely powerful. 3 from Azure Dragon Courtyard, 2 from Black Tortoise Courtyard, and 1 from Vermilion Bird Courtyard. This time there was a slight change. Ling Kong and Lu Ming rushed into the top 10, while Su Song and Lei Dong, who were originally in the 8th place, were not in the top 10. In this way, White Tiger Courtyard still had 4 people, Azure Dragon Courtyard had 3 people, Black Tortoise Courtyard had the worst with only Duan Gang, and Vermilion Bird Courtyard had 2 people. The top 10 had to compete with each other. In other words, each of them had to compete with the other 9. In the end, they would be ranked according to the number of victories. Today's competition had come to an end. The battle between the top 10 would be held the next day. Lu Ming, you're already very good to be able to achieve this result. Don't feel pressured in tomorrow's competition. Just perform as usual, Mulan said. However, she was smiling so widely that her eyes were almost squinted. That won't do. I'm going to get first place. I'm still waiting for your reward, Senior Mulans. Lu Ming said half-jokingly. Okay, then you have to do your best. Mulans's face was slightly red as she glanced at Lu Ming. Hua Qi, Pang Shi and the others who were at the side were stunned. Then Mulans walked lightly and left the place. Lu Ming, Pang Shi and Hua Qi also walked back together. After returning to the dormitory, Lu Ming entered the Temple of Paragon to practice the flaming astral spear art. Today's battle with Ling Kong could be said to be extremely satisfying. Other than the last move of the flaming astral spear art, he had used his bloodline eruption and the force of fire that he had not used yet. 100% of his cultivation, a second-grade initial physical body, and the flaming astral spear art. Lu Ming had benefited a lot from this battle. He felt that the flaming astral spear art was not far from a breakthrough. Lu Ming was immersed in comprehending the flaming astral spear art amidst the strange chanting sound. The flaming rune spear in his hand unconsciously danced. The wind whistled as the spear pierced through the air. Time passed unknowingly just like that. When Lu Ming stopped, 3 hours had already passed. The 5th level of the flaming astral spear art, perfection. I have finally reached it. There was a flash in Lu Ming's eyes. The flaming astral spear art had been stuck at the peak of the 4th level for some time. After the battle with Ling Kong, he had finally broken through. Zhang Muyun, Duanmu Yunyang, how strong are you? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. Then Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and started cultivating the true dragon battle art. At this moment, in a magnificent hall of the White Tiger Hall, the dean of the White Tiger Hall sat on the throne. Below him sat Duanmu Yunyang, Buxingkai and Duanmu Chan. I didn't expect Lu Ming to have reached such a terrifying level. You must be careful when you meet him tomorrow. The dean of the White Tiger Hall warned. Dean, don't worry. Lu Ming is no match for me. I will teach him an unforgettable lesson tomorrow. I will let him know who the bronze spear art is. Buxingkai said confidently. Although Lu Ming's strength is not bad, he is no threat to me. My goal is to defeat Zhang Muyun and take the first place. Duanmu Yunyang said with bright eyes. Good. Yunyang, if you can defeat Zhang Muyun this time, the family will reward you handsomely. Chapter 121. Somewhere in the Black Tortoise Academy, a vigorous voice came out. Duan Gang, this time, you are the only one left in the Black Tortoise Academy. This time you must enter the top 3. Otherwise, my Black Tortoise Academy will be at the bottom. Dean, don't worry. Duan Gang will do his best. In a courtyard of the Azure Dragon Courtyard, Zhang Muyun and Zhua Yirong stood side by side. Brother Muyun, this time Duan Muyunyang will definitely want to get first place. Are you confident? Zhua Yirong asked. In another year, Lu Ming can be my opponent. Other than him, there is no one else. Zhang Muyun let out a long sigh. His sigh sounded a little lonely, but it also showed his strong confidence. This night was destined to be a sleepless night. Countless people were looking forward to tomorrow's pinnacle showdown. Originally, everyone thought that there were two main points to watch in this 4 Academies Grand Competition. First, it was to see how far Ling Kong could go. Second, the battle between Duan Muyunyang and Zhang Muyun to see who would get first place. After all, Duan Muyunyang was that year's newcomer king, but he was suppressed by another person. He always wanted to defeat Zhang Muyun. But now there was another point to watch. This year's newcomer king Lu Ming, how far could he go? Therefore, it made people look forward to it even more. Amidst everyone's anticipation, the night passed. At dawn, Feng Wu and Mulins arrived at Lu Ming's dormitory. After that, everyone ate breakfast and walked towards the location of the grand competition. When they arrived, they were shocked. There was already a sea of people here. The number of people was much higher than yesterday. Some of the silver-ranked disciples who did not come yesterday put down what they were doing and rushed over. Other than that, some silver-robed elders also rushed over. The 10 people today were all true geniuses. They were not old disciples who were stuck at the peak of the 9th level of the martial master realm and could not break through. They were all young and had only suppressed their own cultivation. As long as they broke through to the great martial master realm, they would be considered geniuses among the great martial masters. They could even fight above their level. In the future, they might even be able to ascend to the silver list. Therefore, the silver-ranked disciples also place great importance on them. Not long after, the 4 great courtyards dean and sect leader arrived. Clang! Clang! With the 9 melodious sounds of the bell, the exciting battle of the top 10 began. Alright, the battle between the top 10 has officially begun. This time there will be a total of 9 rounds. The first round, Ling Kong against Duan Muchan, a silver-robed elder referee announced. Everyone's spirits were suddenly roused. They did not expect that the first round would be such a highlight. Duan Muchan, ranked 5th on the bronze list, who would win? On the stage, the two. Duan Muchan was a rare genius of the Duanmu family. His sword skills were unparalleled, and he was only second to Zhang Muyun on the bronze ranking. Duan Muchan, you are not my match. Ling Kong was still confident, wild, and filled with a fiendish aura. Maybe not, Duan Muchan said coldly. Swish. Swish. Zhay. Duan Muchan's sword chi was incomparably swift and fierce. It tore through the air and pierced through the heavens, extremely powerful. Unfortunately, he met Ling Kong. Ling Kong didn't care about the sword chi. He would just smash it with his iron rod. When Ling Kong used the berserk beast art, Duan Muchan was no match for him. He was completely suppressed by Ling Kong's violent attacks. This match was won by Ling Kong. Ling Kong won. Duan Muchan is not Ling Kong's match. Lu Ming, who is stronger, is definitely stronger than Duan Muchan. True enough, Lu Ming and Ling Kong are both in the top 5. Ling Kong's victory made people think of Lu Ming. The second round, Zhang Muyun against Dong Su. The referee announced the start of the second round. There was no suspense in this round. Dong Su admitted defeat before he even made a move. It was unwise to force a move when he knew he was no match for Duan Muchan. Today was not the first round. There were many more rounds to come. If he used too much energy, it would be disadvantageous for him in the later rounds. It was better to just admit defeat. The third round, Lu Ming against Cheng Fei Luan. Cheng Fei Luan. Lu Ming was surprised. Only the two of them from the Vermilion Bird Courtyard were in the top 10. He did not expect them to meet in the first round. The two of them went up the stage from the same area. Cheng Fei Luan was about 17 or 18 years old. She was beautiful in a red dress. There were only 2 girls in the top 10. Cheng Fei Luan and Zhua Yirong were famous beauties from the Mystic Essence Sword sect. They were known as the top 10 beauties of the sect. Right then, Cheng Fei Luan's beautiful eyes lit up. She looked at Lu Ming and said, "Junior brother Lu Ming, I didn't expect us to meet in the first round." Lu Ming smiled and said, "It is indeed a coincidence. Senior sister, please enlighten me. You don't have to enlighten me. I'm no match for you. I admit defeat for this round. Cheng Fei Luan's eyes flashed and she smiled. Huh? You admit defeat? Lu Ming was stunned. That's right. Junior brother Lu Ming, you're the hope of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. We're counting on you this time. Cheng Fei Luan narrowed her eyes and smiled. She then walked down the stage. Lu Ming's first round ended easily. The disciples of the four courtyards were not surprised. After all, Cheng Fei Luan and Lu Ming were both disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. There was no reason for them to compete. The fourth round, Duanmu Yunyang versus Zhuo Yirong. The competition continued. Duanmu Yunyang and Zhuo Yirong had no suspense. Zhuo Yirong only made a few symbolic moves. Seeing that she was no match for Duanmu Yunyang, she admitted defeat. Then came the fifth round. It was the most anticipated round in the first round. Bu Xingkai versus Duan Gang. Bu Xingkai was ranked third on the bronze list. He was known as the best spear user. Duan Gang was ranked fourth on the bronze list. He was known as the best defensive user. His defensive ability was unmatched among the bronze disciples. Correspondingly, Duan Gang's close combat ability was also very strong. This was a battle between two strong opponents. Duan Gang, let me pierce through your tortoise shell today. Bu Xingkai held a black spear in his hand and pointed it at Duan Gang. He was extremely domineering. Try me if you have the ability. Duan Gang was tall and sturdy with bulging muscles. He was obviously a body refining expert. Kill. Formation breaking spear technique. Bu Xingkai rushed toward Duan Gang. Spear shadows appeared in the sky and attacked Duan Gang. Black tortoise protection. Duan Gang shouted. His body glowed and 5 tortoiseshell-like shields condensed around him. At the same time, he wore a pair of spiritual weapon gloves and clawed at Bu Xingkai. His claws were as sharp as blades. As soon as they exchanged blows, a fierce battle broke out between them. Bu Xingkai's attacks were like a torrential downpour. However, Duan Gang's defense was impenetrable. Every time Bu Xingkai's spear hit Duan Gang, it was blocked by the tortoiseshell-like shields around him. For a moment it was hard to tell who was stronger. The disciples of the four courtyards were watching intently. Amazing, amazing. Is this the strength of the top 4 on the bronze list? Pang Shi was dumbstruck as he kept muttering to himself. Senior brother Lu Ming, who do you think will win? Chapter 122. Lu Ming sorted out his thoughts and said, both of them have cultivated the path of the physical body. Among them, Duan Gang's physical body should have already reached the shocking perfected 2nd grade, while Bu Xingkai is a 2nd grade phenomenal success. However, Duan Gang focuses on defense. Although he has cultivated an offensive profound level martial skill, he has only cultivated it to the 3rd level. Bu Xingkai's spear art has already reached the 5th level. As time passes, Bu Xingkai will definitely win. Or, if Bu Xingkai has a killer move, he will win very soon. Mulans looked at Lu Ming in surprise and said, Lu Ming, you have a good eye. Look, Bu Xingkai is about to use his ultimate move. At this moment, Bu Xingkai jumped up from the fighting ring. His body was more than 20 meters high. Then, he pointed his spear down and stabbed at Duan Gang. Toxic Dragon Drill. Bu Xingkai shouted. As he was moving down, the spear started to spin rapidly with the tip of the spear as the center. Vaguely, a black, evil dragon could be seen emerging. Its power was astonishing. Black Tortoise Protection. Invincible. Duan Gang roared and activated his divine body protection technique. A total of 5 tortoiseshell-shaped shields covered his body completely. Boom! There was an earth-shattering explosion. The black and yellow light almost drowned the fighting ring. After a while, a figure slid out quickly and coughed out a mouthful of blood. It was Duan Gang. Bu Xingkai stood proudly with his spear in his hand. Other than his heavy breathing, he was completely fine. Bu Xingkai won. Everyone sighed, especially the disciples of the Xuanwu Academy. Duan Gang was defeated by Bu Xingkai. It seemed that it was impossible for him to enter the top 3. Bu Xingkai wins this round. Well, the first round is over. You guys can take a rest. Those of you who have activated your bloodline just now will be given a blood coagulation pill to recover your bloodline power as soon as possible. Then we will proceed to the second round. The referee announced. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The Xianyuan sword sect was really generous for this grand competition. They even took out a blood coagulation pill. The blood coagulation pill could restore the power of one's bloodline within a short period of time, allowing one's bloodline to erupt again. It was extremely precious. Even the lowest ranked ones that could restore the bloodline of a martial master were frighteningly expensive. Furthermore, they were extremely difficult to refine. Naturally, they were extremely rare. About half an hour later, the second round began. First round, Chang Felwan versus Zhuo Yirong. The referee announced. Everyone's spirits were lifted. Among the top 10 there were only 2 women. Who would have thought that they would meet each other now? 2 graceful silhouettes floated up onto the battle platform. Both of them were extremely beautiful. They were known as the top 10 beauties of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Standing on the same stage, they were like a beautiful scenery. Senior sister Zhuo, please. Junior sister Cheng, please. The 2 of them clasped their fists at each other and began to fight. Chang Feilwan's weapon was a sword, and her bloodline was a fire spiritual bird, so her swordsmanship was of the fire property. Her sword breath was scorching hot. Zhuo Yirong was using a 3-meter-long soft whip. In addition, her bloodline was the 1000-chance vine of the plant element, which complemented each other perfectly. The soft whip in her hand was ever-changing and dazzling. The 2 of them shuttled back and forth on the battle platform like 2 dancing butterflies. It was pleasing to the eye. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged dozens of blows. In the end, Zhuo Yirong was defeated by Chang Feilwan's flames. There was not much difference from the previous ranking on the bronze list. The previous ranking on the bronze list was inferred by the elders of the Mystic Essence Sword sect based on the battle records of the participants, their combat strength, and the martial skills they were good at. One had to admit that the inference was very accurate. Second round, Duanmu Chan versus Dong Su. There was no suspense in this round. Dong Su stubbornly resisted for more than 10 blows before he was defeated. Third round, Zhang Muyun versus Bu Xingkai. This was the highlight of the competition. Zhang Muyun, who was ranked first, versus Bu Xingkai, who was ranked third. Zhang Muyun was dressed in a white robe. He had a gentle smile on his face, which was as gentle as jade. However, when he attacked, his sword chi was shocking. His sword radiance illuminated the 90 prefectures. He was like a sword immortal. Although Bu Xingkai was powerful, he did not manage to last more than 10 blows. 8 blows. He was defeated in just 8 blows. Moreover, Zhang Muyun did not activate his bloodline. He was too powerful. Zhang Muyun was almost invincible. Now, everyone was looking forward to the battle between Duanmu Yunyang and Zhang Muyun. Perhaps only Duanmu Yunyang could compete with Zhang Muyun. Fourth round, Duanmu Yunyang versus Ling Kong. It was another highlight of the competition. The atmosphere became even more heated. This was because this was another battle between 2 newcomer kings, and both of them were from the White Tiger Hall. Ling Kong, do you still want to fight with me? You should know that you are no match for me. Duanmu Yunyang hugged his battle saber and said indifferently, "Ha ha ha, Duanmu Yunyang, when have you seen me?" Ling Kong surrender without a fight? Cut the crap. Let's fight. Ling Kong laughed. Then, he used the Berserk Beast formula and charged toward Duanmu Yunyang with his strongest combat strength. "I'll fulfill your wish," Duanmu Yunyang said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, he unsheathed his battle saber. As the battle saber was unsheathed, a surging saber aura appeared. Buzz! A saber aura that was more than 10 meters long slashed toward Ling Kong. He roared in the air like a wild beast. Then, he raised his iron staff and smashed it toward the saber light with a loud rumbling sound. With a loud bang, the fighting ring shook. Ling Kong's body swayed slightly and his attack was blocked. However, Duanmu Yunyang's attacks were like water that had been opened from a dam. They surged and surged in an unending stream towards the sky. The overbearing saber aura came one after another, as if there was no end to it. 8 blows. Just like Zhang Muyun's victory over Bu Xingkai, Ling Kong was defeated in just 8 blows and was sent flying out of the fighting ring. Too powerful. Among the top 10, Duanmu Yunyang and Zhang Muyun are far ahead. The others can't compete with them. It's up to the 2 of them now. Perhaps they will have a shocking battle. The disciples of the four halls discussed excitedly. Fifth round, Lu Ming versus Duan Gang. At this moment, the referee announced the fifth round of the competition. Here it comes. The battle between Lu Ming and Duan Gang will determine the top 5. If Lu Ming can defeat Duan Gang, he will definitely make it to the top 5 and compete with Bu Xingkai for the 3rd place. Then they will decide who is the bronze first spear. That's right. But in my opinion, if Lu Ming only has the combat strength that he had in the battle with Ling Kong, it will be difficult for him to break through Duan Gang's defense, unless he has another trump card. It's hard to say. Didn't you see that Lu Ming didn't use his bloodline? It's true. I almost forgot. Amid the discussion, Lu Ming stepped into the fighting ring. Duan Gang stood in front of Lu Ming like an iron tower. At this moment, Duan Gang's face was somewhat grave. Chapter 123. Junior brother Lu, please. Please. The two of them cupped their fists. Boom. Then Duan Gang stomped heavily on the ground. His tall body was like a war chariot as he charged towards Lu Ming. Duan Gang was a close combat expert, so he had to close the distance. Astral Fire Spear Art Broken Armor. Lu Ming used the broken armor as soon as he made his move. The penetrating power of this move was extremely strong, second only to the last move, Explosion. Black Tortoise Protection. Duan Gang did not hesitate and used a defensive martial skill. 5 tortoise shell-shaped shields appeared. Clang! The long spear pierced one of the shields and the sound of metal clashing was heard. Lu Ming felt that the long spear had pierced an iron mountain. The long spear was bent into a bow shape. Lu Ming used the long spear's rebound force to retreat. What a strong defense! Lu Ming praised in his heart. However, he did not know that Duan Gang was more shocked than him. He felt that his defense was almost pierced by Lu Ming's long spear. Is this Lu Ming's ultimate move? If not, then it is too strong. It is even stronger than Bu Xingkai's attack. Duan Gang thought in his heart, but his body did not stop. He continued to charge towards Lu Ming. His hands were like eagle claws as he clawed out more than 10 sharp claws. Fire Dance. Lu Ming's long spear shook. Flowers of flame appeared and defeated Duan Gang's claws. Then, more than 10 flowers of flame fell on Duan Gang's protective shield, causing ripples. Landslide. Lu Ming used the momentum to jump up and smashed his long spear towards Duan Gang. Boom! The long spear hit Duan Gang's protective shield and caused a strong vibration. Duan Gang's face changed. He retreated 5 or 6 steps before he could stabilize himself. He retreated. Duan Gang retreated. He is so strong. I feel that Lu Ming's attack is stronger than when he fought with Ling Kong yesterday. Yes. Did he hide his strength yesterday? Unbelievable. On the viewing platform, Ling Kong's eyes revealed a beastly glint as he muttered, "This guy. His martial technique was clearly at the 4th level yesterday, but today he's already at the 5th level. Could it be that he broke through last night? That's impossible, right?" Moon Seizing. As soon as Duan Gang retreated, Lu Ming used his greatest AoE attack, Moon Seizing. A crescent moon was formed and slammed heavily onto Duan Gang's protective shield. Bang! Duan Gang retreated again. Chasing Thunder. Then he became one with his spear, and as fast as lightning, he arrived in the blink of an eye. This spear once again caused Duan Gang's protective shield to tremble. Ah! Duan Gang roared and threw out a few punches in succession. He rushed towards Lu Ming and shouted, "Lu Ming, if you have a trump card, use it as soon as possible. You won't be able to break my defense like this." At the beginning of the battle, he was suppressed by Lu Ming, which was really frustrating. In this way, he couldn't get close to Lu Ming at all. It was impossible for him to win. If he was going to lose, he might as well lose decisively. Okay, as you wish. Explode. Lu Ming's true qi surged out of his body and rushed towards the long spear, gathering at the tip of the spear. Whoosh! The long spear was like a bolt of lightning, streaking across the sky and piercing Duan Gang's protective shield once again. Boom! In an instant, the true qi at the tip of the spear was like a volcano that had been accumulating for thousands of years. It suddenly erupted with a powerful and shocking destructive power. Crack! Duan Gang's protective shield cracked open and then exploded with a bang. Then Duangang screamed and his body flew far away, covered in blood. Phew! As Duangang flew out, all the disciples of the 4 courtyards heaved a long sigh of relief. Lu Ming won. He's in the top 5. I wonder who's stronger between him and Bu Xingkai. It seems like it's Lu Ming. In the White Tiger courtyard area, everyone from the Duanmu family looked terrible. Needless to say, Lu Yao and Lu Yunxiong were gritting their teeth so hard that they were about to break. On the other hand, in the Vermilion Bird courtyard area, loud cheers could be heard. This was because after Lu Ming defeated Duangang, the Vermilion Bird courtyard wouldn't be at the bottom of the grand competition. In the fighting ring, Duangang got up and smiled bitterly. Junior Lu Ming is indeed powerful. I admit defeat wholeheartedly. Duangang's physical body was extremely strong, so he wasn't seriously injured and could recover quickly. Senior Duan, you're too polite. Lu Ming smiled. Lu Ming wins this round. The second round is over. The third round will begin soon, the judge announced. Soon the third round began. In this round, Lu Ming's opponent was Duanmu Chan. There was no suspense between Lu Ming and Duanmu Chan. Lu Ming completely suppressed Duanmu Chan and won in a dozen moves. As for the others, they admitted defeat directly when they encountered Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang. There was no need to fight, so they might as well save their strength for the later rounds. In the fourth round, Lu Ming won easily against Dong Su. In this round, Ling Kong faced Bu Xingkai. The two of them fought fiercely. After hundreds of moves, Bu Xingkai won and defeated Ling Kong. In the fifth round, Lu Ming faced Bu Xingkai. This round caused an uproar in the crowd, because this battle could be said to be the battle for the third place. If Lu Ming won, it would not be a problem for him to come in third place. If Bu Xingkai won, then he would be the third place. Moreover, both of them used spears, so it was more meaningful. In the fighting ring, the two of them stood opposite each other with a spear in their hands. Lu Ming, let's decide the winner with one move. What do you think? Bu Xingkai said in a low voice. Okay, that's what I want. Lu Ming smiled. Decide the winner with one move? Everyone in the arena was stunned. Then they became more excited. Deciding the winner with one move was more dangerous but also more exciting. Boom! Boom! A powerful aura burst out from the two of them. As their auras collided, they rushed out at the same time. Toxic Dragon Drill. Explode! The two of them used their unique skills almost at the same time. Two spear shadows instantly pierced through the void and collided with each other. It was like two stars colliding. In the fighting ring, two colors emerged from the intersection of their spears. One was fiery red and the other was black. The two colors were clearly separated and did not give way to each other. However, the stalemate only lasted for a moment. Suddenly, the fiery red side erupted like a volcano. A powerful force gushed out and suppressed the black side. Bang! A figure flew far away and fell heavily on the ground. It was undoubtedly Bu Xingkai. Bu Xingkai was defeated, and his injuries were more serious than before. Bang! The Dean of White Tiger Hall slammed the seat with a gloomy face. The Dean of Vermilion Bird Hall laughed. Lu Ming wins. The judge announced. Lu Ming is the third place. There's no doubt about it. Gosh, Lu Ming broke senior brother Feng Wuji's record. That's terrifying. If that's the case, our Mystic Essence Sword sect will have a genius who's more powerful than senior brother Feng Wuji. That's hard to say. He's strong now, but it doesn't mean he'll be strong in the future. There are many challenges in the future. In history, many people were outstanding in their youth, but their achievements were mediocre when they grew up. Chapter 124. I really can't see through this guy. Does he really want to fight for the first place? Mulin's face was completely replaced by a smile. On the other hand, Peng Shi and Hua Qi were so excited that their bodies were trembling, and they were already speechless. Then the competition continued. After the fifth round, it was the sixth round. In the sixth round, Lu Ming versus Ling Kong. Lu Ming and Ling Kong had already fought yesterday, so there was no need to fight again. Ling Kong simply admitted defeat. In the 6 rounds of the competition, there were only 3 people who maintained a perfect record: Zhang Muyun, Duanmu Yunyang, and Lu Ming. At this time, the situation gradually became clear. First and second, Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang. Third, Lu Ming. Fourth should be Bushinkai. Fifth and sixth should be between Ling Kong and Duan Gang. As for the rest, Dong Su was almost in the 10th place. There was no longer any suspense and the difference should not be too big. There were 3 rounds left. Everyone's focus was on Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang. They wanted to know who would win the first place. Of course, there was also Lu Ming. Could Lu Ming fight with the first 2 people? How many moves could he resist? Everyone's attention was on these few points. In everyone's expectation, the 7th round began. The first round of the 7th round, Ling Kong versus Duan Gang. This battle could be said to be the longest and fiercest battle in the competition. Both of them were violent fighters. They bombarded the Colosseum as if they were 2 demons fighting. After hundreds of moves, Duan Gang won because the time of Ling Kong's Beast Frenzy formula was up. The second round, Lu Ming versus Zhua Yirong. Zhua Yirong admitted defeat without hesitation. The third round finally ushered in the most important battle. It was also the battle that everyone was most concerned about. Zhang Muyun versus Duanmu Yunyang. The battle between the 2 of them took place in advance. They met in the 7th round. 2 figures, one from the east and one from the west, walked onto the fighting ring. In an instant the whole place was boiling. One was the first sword and the other was the first saber. They were ranked first and second on the bronze list. The battle between the 2 ignited the blood of the young warriors present. Many of them were thirsty, and their eyes were wide open as they stared at the 2 on the battle platform. Zhang Muyun, a year ago I was defeated by you. That was my humiliation. Now I will take back the glory that belongs to me and trample you under my feet. Duanmu Yunyang's gaze was like that of a tiger, incomparably overbearing. Even when facing Zhang Muyun, he was still arrogant and overbearing. This was his innate personality. He could be considered a tyrant. However, Zhang Muyun was more like a king. He had the bearing of a dragon and a tiger. His eyes were like the stars, and he had a gentle smile on his face. He said, Duanmu Yunyang, you lost to me last year. This year you have even less of a chance. You won't have a chance in the future either. The gap between us will only widen. Zhang Muyun's voice was calm and gentle, but it was filled with unparalleled confidence. If an ordinary person dared to say this, everyone would think that he was arrogant, conceited, and condescending. However, when these words came out of Zhang Muyun's mouth, no one felt that he was arrogant or condescending. Instead, they felt that he was speaking the truth, because he had the right to say so. I told you to take back your words. Take this. Duanmu Yunyang said coldly. Boom! A powerful aura erupted from Duanmu Yunyang's body. His body didn't move, but a several-meter-long saber that was completely condensed out of Zhan Qi appeared above his head. It slashed through the air and charged towards Zhang Muyun. Clang! With a sword hum, a huge sword also formed above Zhang Muyun's head and slashed forward. Boom! When the saber and the sword met, countless sword qi and saber light shot out in all directions. Puff puff puff, saber and sword beams struck the ground. If it were not for the large number of inscriptions carved into the ground would have been riddled with holes. It was just a test, but it had already reached such a terrifying level. Saber art of annihilation, spirit extermination. Duanmu Yunyang unsheathed his battle saber. It was as if a demon had broken free from its shackles and returned to the world. The terrifying saber radiance seemed to be able to split the void as it slashed toward Zhang Muyun. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out. Zhang Muyun did not move, but his long sword was unsheathed. The moment the sword was unsheathed, a sharp and merciless aura filled the air. The entire world seemed to be enveloped by his sword aura. Screech! A soft sound of breaking through the air was heard. If one did not listen carefully, they would not be able to hear it. A sword light flashed and shot out before the sound could be heard. Boom! This sword aura was not as overbearing as Duanmu Yunyang's saber radiance. However, it was able to defeat Duanmu Yunyang's saber radiance with one strike. Annihilation saber art. Annihilation of heaven. Duanmu Yunyang shouted. When this saber slashed out, Duanmu Yunyang fell into a dead silence. He had lost all emotions. Humans were emotionless, but sabers were even more emotionless. There was only endless sharpness that could destroy everything in the world. For seasoned swordplay, overflowing spring. Break for me. Zhang Muyun said indifferently as he thrust out his sword. In an instant, hundreds of sword auras appeared in the sky. The sword auras were fine and dense like the spring rain, enveloping Duanmu Yunyang's saber art. If Duanmu Yunyang's saber art represented annihilation, then Zhang Muyun's sword art represented life and hope. The sword auras were like droplets of spring rain. Although each droplet was not very powerful, when they gathered together, their power was boundless. The saber radiance and sword auras dissipated in the air. Brilliant, this is too brilliant. Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang's low-grade profound martial skill have already been cultivated to the highest level. The man in martial skill is one. It is definitely the man in martial skill is one realm. It is far beyond the others. Moreover, both of their physical bodies are at the perfect second grade. It is really amazing. Both of their bloodlines are at the 6th grade. This kind of combat strength has already surpassed the martial master realm. It would not be a problem for them to kill an ordinary first-grade martial master. Are these the top 2 geniuses on the bronze list? It is really amazing. Lu Ming's eyes were bright as he sighed in his heart. Mulins, who was beside him, glanced at Lu Ming and said, "How is it? This is the strength of Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang. Seeing their combat strength, do you still have the confidence to get first place?" "Why not?" Lu Ming said, revealing a meaningful smile. This guy, is he pretending to be profound? Mulins felt that she could not see through Lu Ming. She did not know whether he was telling the truth or not. Saber technique of obliteration, world annihilation. Duanmu Yunyang roared and slashed out 18 times in an instant. Each of the 18 saber radiances was extremely terrifying. The key was that the trajectory of each slash was erratic, like a wild horse that was out of control. It was unfathomable. For seasoned swordsmanship, scorching summer. The sound of a sword rang out. A sword radiance appeared in the air, emitting a dazzling light like a sun. Chi-chi. This sun was actually shooting out densely packed sword auras. No matter how unpredictable Duanmu Yunyang's saber radiances were, they all collapsed under the sword auras. Autumn wind rustling. Then Zhang Muyun unleashed his next move. The fighting ring suddenly fell into a dead silence. Everything was dead and the autumn wind rustled. A lonely sword radiance flashed across the sky and slashed toward Duanmu Yunyang. Boom! Chapter 125. Duanmu Yunyang retreated while Zhang Muyun advanced. Winter thunder tremor. Zhang Muyun instantly slashed out 9 times. 9 thunderous swords blasted towards Duanmu Yunyang. World annihilation. Duanmu Yunyang roared. A pale white sword light soared into the sky as he resisted with all his might. When the light dissipated, Duanmu Yunyang quickly retreated. A deep wound appeared on his shoulder. Duanmu Yunyang, I have said that you are no match for me. Zhang Muyun's clothes were as white as snow as he stepped forward step by step. With every step he took, the aura on his body became stronger. With their cultivation, as long as they are willing, they can break through to the martial grandmaster realm in the blink of an eye. Moreover, there will be no bottlenecks in the martial grandmaster realm, and they can continue to break through. After all, their accumulation is too strong. A powerful silver-ranked disciple sighed. Ha ha ha, Zhang Muyun, do you think you have one? Take my final move. Blood annihilation chop. Duanmu Yunyang laughed loudly. Blood spurted out from his wound and gathered in the air to form a blood saber. Chop! Duanmu Yunyang waved his hand. The blood saber turned into a ray of bloodlight and slashed towards Zhang Muyun. Zhang Muyun's gaze flickered. A sword light whizzed out and hit the blood saber. However, at this moment, the blood saber suddenly dissipated and turned into wisps of blood mist. Subsequently, the blood mist condensed and turned into blood leopards that charged towards Zhang Muyun. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhang Muyun swung his sword. Sword chi flew out and dispersed the blood leopards. However, after the blood leopards were dispersed, they turned into blood mist again and condensed into blood leopards again. It was as though there was no end to them. What a strange secret technique. Is this Duanmu Yunyang's trump card? I have never heard of Duanmu Yunyang knowing this secret technique. It seems like he has had a fortuitous encounter during this period. Is Zhang Muyun going to lose? Ha ha ha. Zhang Muyun, this blood annihilation chop is specially used to deal with you. Today you will definitely lose. Duanmu Yunyang laughed maniacally. Duanmu Yunyang, I thought you had some skills. This secret technique is just a small trick. In the future, when your cultivation is high, this secret technique will be useless. Let me show you what is the Great Tao. Break. As soon as Zhang Muyun finished speaking, an extremely powerful aura suddenly rose from his body. An incomparably sharp, all-conquering force suddenly erupted. That's right, it was force. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, the major figures of the 4 great courtyards, such as the 4 great courtyards deans, the various silver-gowned elders, and the golden-gowned elders, all of them suddenly stood up from their seats. Apart from the sect master, the sect master's eyes were also shining brightly. Force, it's the force of metal. Zhang Muyun has actually comprehended force. A genius, a genius. He actually comprehended force at the martial master realm. Unbelievable. Haha, our mystic essence sword sect has gained yet another true genius. The silver-robed elders shouted excitedly. Hearing the silver-robed elders' words, the disciples who didn't know what was going on were shocked. Most of the bronze-ranked disciples, including the majority of the silver-ranked disciples, had not comprehended force, but they had more or less heard of it and knew the power of force. How could they not be shocked? Gee, the force of metal was all-conquering and incomparably sharp. Once the force of metal was unleashed, there was nothing it couldn't destroy. In an instant, the blood leopards surrounding Zhang Muyun were all shattered and could no longer condense. Duanmu Yunyang let out a blood-curdling scream as he retreated a dozen steps. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. Ha ha ha, Zhang Muyun. I didn't expect you to comprehend force. I lost and I deserved it. Duanmu Yunyang let out a bitter laugh as his face revealed a dispirited expression. The overbearing aura from before had disappeared without a trace. What Zhang Muyun said was right. The secret technique was only a small path. The force was the true path. The earlier one comprehended force, the more beneficial it would be to one's future. Zhang Muyun was able to comprehend force at the martial master realm, which meant that his talent was far above his. Perhaps he would never be able to catch up with Zhang Muyun in his lifetime. At this moment, he had lost all his fighting spirit. Yunyang, what are you doing? A martial artist is going against the heavens. Only when one has the will to fight and become more courageous can one reach the peak of martial arts. Wake up! The dean of the White Tiger Institute suddenly yelled. The yell was like thunder, exploding in Duanmu Yunyang's ears. Duanmu Yunyang shuddered as he suddenly came to his senses and broke out in a cold sweat. He was in a dangerous situation just then. If he didn't wake up in time, his state of mind would be shattered and he would be lost in the path of martial arts. It would be difficult for him to progress further. This was the so-called inner demon. Thank you, Dean. Duanmu Yunyang bowed toward the dean of the White Tiger Institute. He then looked toward Zhang Muyun with a domineering look in his eyes as he said, Zhang Muyun, I will catch up with you sooner or later. I will definitely take back the glory that belongs to me. After saying this, he turned around and left the fighting ring. Zhang Muyun wins this round. Let's move on to the next round. The judge announced. The competition continued. However, after the intense battle, the following rounds were no longer able to arouse the crowd's interest. In the eyes of the majority of the crowd, the result of this round was already out. Zhang Muyun would surely be the first, and Duanmu Yunyang would be the second. Although there were still 2 rounds left, there was no suspense. Soon after, the 7th round ended. After a short break, the 8th round began. There were not many changes in the first 4 rounds because the outcome was already within everyone's expectations. The 5th round, Lu Ming versus Duanmu Yunyang. The judge announced the participants of the 5th round. The crowd's spirits were slightly lifted. Finally, it was Lu Ming and Duanmu Yunyang's turn to fight. Previously, Lu Ming had repeatedly slapped the Duanmu family in the face. Duanmu Yunyang had said that he would make Lu Ming lose miserably. Lu Ming also responded strongly. The 2 of them had not fought yet, but sparks had already flown in all directions. Now that they had finally met, what would the result be? How many moves could Lu Ming block? Wouldn't he be tortured miserably? The 2 of them walked onto the fighting ring and stood facing each other. Lu Ming, it's finally our turn. My previous words still count. If you don't admit defeat quickly, you will lose miserably. Duanmu Yunyang's voice was cold and domineering. Lose miserably? Are you talking about yourself? You did lose miserably before. It was quite indecent. Your martial heart almost collapsed. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He was referring to the previous fight between Duanmu Yunyang and Zhang Muyun. Lu Ming, you shouldn't have mentioned this. Since you have mentioned it, it won't be settled by losing miserably. Duanmu Yunyang's face became as cold as the North Pole. His eyes flashed with undisguised killing intent. Duanmu Yunyang wants to kill. This time Lu Ming is in trouble. Lu Ming is being a bit impulsive. He shouldn't have provoked Duanmu Yunyang at this time. Yes, on the fighting ring, except for the prohibition of killing, there are no other restrictions. If Lu Ming doesn't admit defeat, even the sect leader can't intervene. The consequences for Lu Ming are worrying. Chapter 126. However, Lu Ming's face was still calm, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of ridicule. He said, "You lost to Zhang Muyun, and your martial heart almost collapsed. I wonder what will happen after you lose to me?" Lose to you? Ha ha ha, impossible. How can I, Duanmu Yunyang, lose to a newcomer? This is the biggest joke in the world. Lu Ming, don't think you can use this method to disturb my state of mind. Ridiculous. Your road ends here. Annihilation saber art, spirit destruction. Duanmu Yunyang's saber was unsheathed amidst his laughter. The overbearing saber light slashed toward Lu Ming. The moment he slashed, he had already activated his bloodline. Broken armor. In an instant, Lu Ming operated the true dragon battle art to the extreme. The majestic dragon-shaped genuine qi surged in his strong body and poured into the long spear. Along the long spear, a powerful rotating cutting force erupted. Ding! The long spear accurately pierced the blade. With a roar, Duanmu Yunyang's body did not move, but Lu Ming's body shook slightly and took a step back. He blocked it. Senior brother Lu Ming blocked Duanmu Yunyang's attack. Peng Shi shouted excitedly. Beside him, Mulan's Feng Wu Huaqi, and the other disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard, and even the dean of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard, revealed a joyful expression as they stared at the field without blinking. Although Lu Ming was at a disadvantage, it was only a slight disadvantage. At this point, they did not want Lu Ming to win. That would be a lie. Although they knew that the possibility was not great, they still had a glimmer of hope that Lu Ming could create a miracle. At this time, seeing Lu Ming block Duanmu Yunyang's move, of course, they were overjoyed. This Duanmu Yunyang is really powerful. Lu Ming felt a little numb in his palm as he thought in his heart. Duanmu Yunyang's physical body had reached complete second grade, which was 2 levels higher than Lu Ming's. Moreover, his lower-grade profound martial skill had been cultivated to the 6th level, the unity of man and martial arts realm. Moreover, he had a level 6 bloodline. Combined together, the power that erupted was incomparably terrifying. Lu Ming's physical body and martial techniques were both at a disadvantage. The only thing he could rely on was the rich and condensed true qi of the true dragon battle art. But it was still not enough. To be able to block my saber strike with 80% of my power, you have some skills. But that's all. Destroy the heavens. Kill. When Duanmu Yunyang saw that he had only gained a slight upper hand, the killing intent in his eyes blazed even more fiercely. He unleashed all of his strength and operated his real qi to the extreme. His aura instantly became a bit stronger. A saber light, even stronger than the previous one, slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you have to block it. Mulan's Feng Wu and the rest clenched their fists tightly. Their palms were covered in cold sweat as they stared fixedly at the arena. Landslide. Lu Ming's long spear swept out and once again clashed with the war blade. Boom! This time Lu Ming retreated 7 or 8 steps, his blood and qi surging. Lu Ming is no match for him in the end. From the looks of it, Lu Ming will definitely lose within 10 moves. Lu Ming doesn't seem to have activated his bloodline yet. Indeed, it's strange. But in such a situation, even if he activates his bloodline, it's still hard to escape defeat. Don't forget that Duanmu Yunyang still has a secret technique that he hasn't used yet? That's right. Seeing this situation, sighs came from all around. Should I use force? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Then he rejected it. If he used the force of fire, Lu Ming had full confidence that he could defeat Duanmu Yunyang. But this wasn't the result he wanted. He had an idea, a crazy idea. He wanted to use Duanmu Yunyang's pressure to break through his cultivation. Otherwise, with his current cultivation, even if he defeated Duanmu Yunyang, it would be very difficult for him to defeat Zhang Muyun, who had also comprehended force. Only with strong pressure could he break through his limits. Only with a breakthrough in his cultivation could he fight with Zhang Muyun. Let's see how you can take my third saber move, Armageddon. Duanmu Yunyang roared, and his saber slashed out 18 saber radiances. Each of the 18 saber radiances was ever-changing and unpredictable. Each of them was extremely powerful, as if they could kill everything. It was called Armageddon. Although it was exaggerated, its power could still be seen. It seems that I can only activate my bloodline. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he activated his bloodline without hesitation. With a flash of blood, Lu Ming's aura surged. A devouring power covered his body, and Lu Ming's strength increased by 40%. He directly rushed toward the 18 saber radiances. Boom! Boom! In an instant, Lu Ming was drowned by the 18 saber radiances. In the fighting ring, there were only the pale saber radiances and the fiery red spear radiances, as well as the sounds of explosions. Can Lu Ming block it? Everyone present stared at the fighting ring, afraid that they would miss an important scene. After 18 consecutive explosions, a figure rushed out. His long spear turned into a half-moon and swept toward Duanmu Yunyang. It was Lu Ming. He was not injured at all. Although Duanmu Yunyang's saber radiances were powerful, 50% of the attack was devoured by Lu Ming's spirit-devouring bloodline. The remaining attack could hardly hurt Lu Ming. Seeing that Lu Ming was not injured and was even attacking him with a stronger attack, Duanmu Yunyang's expression changed. Slash! In a hurry, he slashed out with his saber. Clang! Duanmu Yunyang's body shook violently, and he involuntarily slid back more than 10 meters. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's aura was greatly reduced. His bloodline could only last for 5 breaths, which was too short. Lu Ming, damn it, go to hell. Blood extermination cut. After being pushed back by Lu Ming's spear, Duanmu Yunyang was furious. He slashed his saber on his arm, and a wisp of blood spurted out. It formed a blood-red saber in the air and slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed, and he quickly retreated. However, the blood-red saber chased after Lu Ming as if it had a mind of its own. Chasing thunder. He thrust his spear and pierced the blood-colored battle saber. The blood-colored battle saber was crushed by the spear and turned into wisps of blood mist. Subsequently, it condensed into blood leopards that pounced on Lu Ming. In a flash, Lu Ming was enveloped by the blood leopards. Lu Ming, enjoy it. You forced me to use this move. It's not bad, but that's all. Haha. Duanmu Yunyang laughed wildly. Stop, quickly stop. Duanmu Yunyang, you win this battle. Quickly withdraw your secret technique. Mulan shouted with an unsightly expression. Stop? Mulan's Lu Ming hasn't admitted defeat. The battle is still in progress. How can I stop? Duanmu Yunyang sneered. Mulan's expression turned ugly as she shouted. Lu Ming, this battle ends here. Admit defeat. However, Lu Ming turned a deaf ear to her and fought with all his strength against the blood leopards pouncing from all directions. Lu Ming's essence, chi, and spirit were highly concentrated. He circulated the true dragon battle art to the extreme and fought with the blood leopards pouncing from all directions. The long spear swept out and the blood leopards were defeated. However, they immediately condensed again and continued to pounce endlessly. Lu Ming fought with all his might, raising his potential to the extreme. Martial Master 9th Layer, break for me. In the battle, Lu Ming stimulated his potential. He fought while breaking through. After countless attempts, the barrier of the Martial Master 9th Layer finally loosened. Boom! Finally, with a loud bang, the barrier was broken. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth frantically gathered towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body seemed to be breathing. The true chi in his body was constantly growing stronger and thicker. Breakthrough, Lu Ming is breaking through. Chapter 127. Heavens, he's really breaking through. He broke through in the middle of a great battle. This is too crazy. The entire audience was in an uproar. Lu Ming had actually broken through in the middle of an intense battle. How strong was his willpower and firm mind? Ordinary people couldn't do it. Breakthrough? No, that's not right. So Lu Ming didn't reach the 9th level martial master before? Many disciples looked at each other. At this moment, they realized that Lu Ming had not reached the 9th level martial master. Previously, Lu Ming's performance was too strong and his true qi was dense. Most of the disciples of the 4 courtyards naturally believed that Lu Ming's cultivation should be at the 9th level martial master. Other than a few silver-robed elders who had already seen through it, most of the disciples thought so. Now they suddenly realized that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the peak of the 8th level martial master. This was too inconceivable. One by one, their mouths were agape as they stood there in a daze. The spiritual energy between heaven and earth constantly gathered towards Lu Ming. The aura on Lu Ming's body rapidly soared. Boom! Lu Ming's aura was like a rainbow as he officially stepped into the 9th level martial master. Lu Ming, even if your cultivation has broken through, what's the use? You are destined to lose today. After a brief moment of shock, Duanmu Yunyang roared. Is that so? Moon seizing. After stepping into the 9th level martial master, Lu Ming's true qi had doubled. The long spear swept out, rumbling like thunder. Bang! Bang! As the long spear swept out, the blood leopards exploded in the air and continued to condense. However, their speed was much slower than before. Duanmu Yunyang's move was not unbreakable. As long as one's strength reached a certain level, it would still collapse. Just like when Zhang Muyan had used force, he had defeated this move with a single move. Lu Ming, you forced me. Blood destruction / Duanmu Yunyang roared and spat out a mouthful of blood. There was even a drop of blood essence in the blood. Duanmu Yunyang was going all out. He absolutely couldn't accept being defeated by Lu Ming. He had even forced out a drop of his blood essence. One had to know that a human body only had 9 drops of essence blood. If one used a drop, it would be extremely difficult to recover. This was a matter of great harm to one's vitality. The fresh blood condensed in the air and transformed into blood leopards that pounced on Lu Ming. These blood leopards were more solid and more powerful than the previous ones. Lu Ming. Let's see how you're going to break this. Go to hell. Duanmu Yunyang laughed crazily. The killing intent in his eyes was incomparably cold. Lu Ming was not afraid in the slightest. Holding the long spear in his hand, he stood quietly on the fighting ring and looked indifferently at the blood leopard that was pouncing on him. He whispered, Duanmu Yunyang, my cultivation has already broken through. This farce should end now. What? Duanmu Yunyang was stunned. The 4 deans were stunned, the silver-robed elders were stunned, and the disciples of the 4 great academies were also stunned. A farce? What do you mean? But in the next moment they knew what it meant. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Lu Ming's body. This aura was tyrannical and powerful. Everyone seemed to have seen a volcano erupting. Hot magma spewed out and wreaked havoc in the world. Force, the force of fire. All the disciples of the 4 great academies, all the silver-robed elders, including the 4 deans, widened their eyes and opened their mouths. They looked at the tall figure on the fighting ring in disbelief. The air seemed to have frozen at this moment. The whole place was silent. Lu Ming had actually comprehended force. This was too shocking. Zhang Muyun had comprehended force, which was already shocking enough. After all, he had entered the sect for more than 3 years. But what about Lu Ming? He had entered the sect this year. Break. At this moment, an indifferent voice resounded. Lu Ming thrust out his spear. The surging force, combined with his martial skill, turned into a spear light that blasted out. Boom! The blood leopards that pounced on Lu Ming instantly collapsed and dissipated between heaven and earth. The spear light did not stop, bombarding Duanmu Yunyang's body. Duanmu Yunyang screamed and flew far away. Duanmu Yunyang lost. It was unknown who shouted, but it ignited the whole place in an instant. The whole place fell into an uproar. Lu Ming. Zhang Muyun whispered and stood up from his seat. His eyes revealed a strong desire to fight. The 4 deans and the sect leader also stood up from their seats. Their eyes flickered and their expressions were different. Impossible? It was impossible? How is this possible? Lu Yunxiong and Lu Yao kept shaking their heads. They simply could not accept this. Why? In the fighting ring, Duanmu Yunyang struggled to get up. His hair was disheveled and he hysterically shouted. He could not bear all this. Lu Ming looked at Duanmu Yunyang indifferently and said, Duanmu Yunyang, weren't you very confident before? You said that you would never lose to me. You said that losing to me was the biggest joke in the world. What about now? After saying this, Lu Ming took a step forward and looked at Duanmu Yunyang intently. Duanmu Yunyang, you are arrogant and conceited. You always say that you want to take back the glory that belongs to you. What glory do you have? Besides relying on your family, what do you count for? Without the Duanmu family, you are nothing. Lu Ming's every word was like a sharp knife that stabbed into Duanmu Yunyang's heart. No, it's not like this. You're talking nonsense. How can this be? Duanmu Yunyang's hair was disheveled as he shouted wildly, as if he had gone crazy. Previously, he was incomparably overbearing and confident. He did not put Lu Ming in his eyes at all and thought that he would never lose. However, the reality was that he had suffered a crushing defeat in front of everyone. For a proud person like him, the blow was too big. Lu Ming, shut up. The White Tiger Institute's dean roared like a thunderclap. Yunyang, wake up now. The White Tiger Institute's dean wanted to use the same trick to wake Duanmu Yunyang up. Unfortunately, Duanmu Yunyang did not regain consciousness like before. Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. He ignored the dean of the White Tiger sect and shouted, Duanmu Yunyang, you have been defeated today. You will never be my match. Furthermore, you are not worthy of being my opponent. You are not worthy to be my opponent. These words directly blasted into the depths of Duanmu Yunyang's heart. No, it can't be. I am invincible. Duanmu Yunyang shouted. His eyes were red. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the ground. Damn it, you little bastard. I will kill you. The dean of the White Tiger sect was enraged. An aura as deep as the sea surged from his body. It was extremely powerful and suppressed Lu Ming. Puff. In an instant, Lu Ming felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him. He was unmatched. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated dozens of meters. Duanmu Pajuan, what are you doing? The Vermilion Bird Institute's dean was furious. He also released a powerful aura and blocked the White Tiger Institute's aura. What am I doing? Lu Ming, you little bastard, deliberately destroyed Yunyang's state of mind and ruined his martial path. You should kill him.